Hey people, welcome to the Run Testers. In this video, we're going to be looking at the brand new Adidas Adizero Adios Pro 3. Got a first run test coming right up with multi-tester. Myself and Nick have had our feet in these and we're going to tell you what we think of them from early miles. We'll also give you a little comparison how they've changed on the Adios Pro 2. So first up, those key details then. Well, the Adios Pro 3 have a 6.5mm drop. The stack height is 39.5mm in the heel and 33mm in the forefoot. When it comes to price, Adidas has hiked the price up from the £180 you would have paid for the old Adios Pro 2. The Adios Pro 3 are now £220 in the UK and $250 in the US. So Adidas is calling the Adios Pro 3 the ultimate long distance road racing shoe. It's fair to say that most of the run testers were fans of the Adios Pro 2. It was a shoe that we generally kind of liked as a carbon racer. It featured fairly high in our list of the best carbon racers going from last year. But let's have a quick whip round of the shoe to see what's different and what's changed and what's new. So let's start with the midsole. You're still getting the same dual density Light Strike Pro foam that you had in the Adios Pro 2, but there is a notable change to the overall sort of shape of that midsole. Basically, the drop has gone down from 10mm on the Pro 2. It's down to 6.5mm for the Pro 3. And where the difference is coming is that there's 4mm of extra kind of stack height added to the forefoot. So you're getting 4mm of extra kind of Light Strike Pro foam at the forefoot, which gives you a lower drop shoe here. The other thing that's different here is that the carbon element has been changed. The energy rods are now energy rods 2. And the main difference there is they're now a single unit, although it still splays with carbon placed under each of your metatarsals, under each of your toes, but it's a one piece. So that was one of the things that was complained about in the first, is that some of those carbon rods could break, and that's supposed to improve that and fix that problem. Now, according to Adidas, you've now got a more lightweight upper compared to the Pro 2. The Pro 3 is different. I think it kind of feels a little bit more sort of rigid, I think. There's some difference in the overlays as well. So some of these kind of tapes that you saw coming up here around the foot on the Adios Pro 2, they're not there as much on the Pro 3. So you've got this one kind of tape to kind of wrap over that top bit of the foot. And then you've got some other little bits sort of coming across here, which add some structure to those uppers. But that has been cut back quite a lot compared to what was on this Adios Pro 2. The other thing I think that's really noticeable here is that the lacing structure has also slightly changed. So before on the Pro 3, you kind of had this sort of plastic holding these, and then you went down into the bottom eyelets, and they were fairly kind of standard holes that wrapped across. So the big difference here is that you've got that, it's pretty standard again, sort of main way down the shoe, but when you get into those last two eyelets, under here, built in, sort of taped in to the upper there, are two kind of, they're sort of raised bumps. They're just kind of reinforced eyelets that are holding those laces kind of firm. And those are something that weren't there on the former, but I certainly noticed them when I ran on the latter. Again, more on that in the run test. Another interesting change, on the old Adios Pro 2, you had some extra padded cushioning into the sort of heel collar further down, but also the sort of top bit of the heel collar, it was fairly padded actually. It came up and sort of wrapped the heel, and it was relatively padded all the way in and around this heel collar. So there was a reasonable amount of padding there. That's been changed quite a lot. So you've got this sort of slightly different sort of heel tab, helps you pull the shoes on. You've still got these kind of pads added inside the heel collar here, but there's much less padding in and around the overall kind of heel collar around there. You're relying solely on these pads. And also this heel tab, interestingly, if you want to, it folds down. So you can basically use that to pull the shoes on, get them in place, and then you can fold it away where it's not in the way of the Achilles or whatever. So that sort of doesn't have any kind of risk of rubbing, which is interesting. Flip them over and onto the outsole. You've still got the Continental outsole rubber, which we really liked for grip. It was really good on the grip. It's a fairly similar kind of outsole pattern in terms of where the rubber is placed. It sort of kicks back into here, into the back section. You've got these kind of two heel protection areas, which you had on the Adios Pro 2 as well. You have got some rubber sort of cutaway, the sort of extra, basically done some weight saving here into the forefoot. And you've also got this sort of extra kind of reinforced bit over here where you're kind of potentially going to get a bit more sort of toe striking. Now, the other thing I picked up, I think, when I saw it by eye, just looking at these shoes, and if you stack them up, I think you can kind of see, let's pop that one that way so you can maybe get a better look. The Adios Pro 3 looks wider to me, to the eye. It feels wider on the foot, and I've measured it, and actually it's only sort of maybe half a centimetre in some places or millimetres in other places. but there are some key differences. It's slightly wider in the forefoot ever so at the widest point, and the width kind of comes back a little bit more as well. And even into this kind of midsection here, this bit here, there's much more kind of width back here in the midsole and into the heel. And I think along with the drop, that changes the ride sensation of the Adios Pro 3. With that in mind, let's have a quick word on fit, and then we'll get into the run test to discuss that in greater detail. So fit then, I ran in a UK 8.5, which is my size. I think I'd recommend probably going true to size. I don't find the Adios Pro range the most natural. They don't have the best kind of disappearing feel on the foot the minute you put them in. You have to kind of work to make them feel nice. Once you're running, they tend to kind of be okay. One word for me on fit is that this bit across the middle here, I found quite narrow. I've got quite wide feet. And on one shoe, and one shoe alone, I had a bit of rubbing.
So I think the fit of the Adios Pro 3 is definitely different to the 2 for me. It narrows a lot more up in the toe box a bit there, and I happen to have a half size up on my normal size. That's why I got sent for this shoe, and actually I think that's really lucky because this fits me perfectly, and I worry that in my normal size I'd have a little bit of cramping around the toes, whereas actually on the Adios Pro 2 my normal size fit me correctly. So for me the temptation would be to go half a size up. This thing at the back, I don't really know what's going on there. I folded it down and then there's kind of a decent amount of padding there. I didn't have any problems around the heel or midfoot myself, but yeah, the toe box is a little bit narrow, and I've been very happy half a size up. Good morning, welcome to Victoria Docks Park Run. Just here for my first run in the Adidas Adios Pro 3. Got a massive session lined up today, first week of proper marathon training. Going to do 5k now at 3:35 a k before the park run starts, and do the park run hard, and then the plan is to do 10k at 3:35 a k afterwards. So a lot of running, going to be pretty tricky. It's pretty hot, sweaty already after quite a long warm up. So yeah, but looking forward to testing out the shoe. I'll try and check in along the way depending on how knackered I am after each step. So that's the first 5k done. I was on pace right there. I think I averaged around 3:33 a k and didn't feel amazingly comfortable. Today is hot. I'm not sure how quick I'm actually going to be in this park run. But yeah, the shoe felt good. Reasonably firm feel to it. You know, for such a high stack shoe, you know, you get a good kind of snap to it from it, and I don't know if it feels slightly firmer than the previous version, but maybe it's my imagination. Have a quick drink and then get ready for the actual park run. Oh, that's the park run done then. I think I did something like 16:25, something like that. Heat, a bit too much for me today. I wasn't really quite fit enough to nail the sub 16, unfortunately, so I just had to do a couple of k's at that pace, then cling on from there to try and get back in a reasonably quick time. I've not had much of a rest. I'm about to do this 10k. I'm not looking forward to it. It's going to be hard. The shoes, I don't know, didn't feel that aggressive on that 5k, certainly. I probably would have definitely been in a Takumi if I could have been, or something lighter like the Vaporfly or Asics Metabeat Sky, but hoping this is where they're going to come into their own now and be running like a 10k, tired legs, slightly slower than marathon pace. Hopefully they should be able to pull this off, but at the same time I don't think I'm quite in great condition today still, so after a little bit of a holiday and a bit of lurgy, so I'm not sure. I'm going to blame the shoes if I blow up straight away, put it that way. Oh, well, I've just wrapped up kind of the main session there. I only did 5k of that last 10k and just slightly was struggling with the pace and just wasn't really feeling it. So not a stellar outing today for me, but the shoes, yeah, they kind of haven't left a massively positive impression. You know, like I say, I wasn't really on it today, so maybe that's a bit unfair to them, but I didn't feel like I was getting that kind of tippy forward, leg saving feeling on the kind of slower 3:35 sections, and then in the actual park run, they didn't feel very light and aggressive and nimble. Like I'd certainly have rather had the Takumi on, for example, the Adidas Takumi on for the park run, and almost feel like it's got a bit more to it in general. Like they're quite big. There's a lot of ground contact going on, and I think they really are built for kind of cruisier stuff. But even today, when I was doing that on slightly broken ground with lots of turns, they didn't absolutely excel. Obviously, we'll do loads more testing. Today might have just been a bad outing for them. Like wasn't actually wowed by the Adios Pro 2 the first couple of times I ran in it, but then I really started to like it later on when I kind of did some longer, hard efforts in. So coming off the Alpha Fly 2 testing, they didn't exactly shine in the way that shoe has over kind of short reps, long reps, everything. But maybe I'm just a bit off day, so we'll see a lot more in the shoe before we deliver any kind of final verdict.
So the run test for me then, well, the main run that I did was a 10k where I mixed up the paces, everything from kind of very slow mile through to a steady through to one that was quicker. So 6 miles overall, bit of tarmac, bit of compacted river path, and overall I really like the run of the shoe. As I said, I don't feel that they feel quite as natural when you first put them on in terms of the overall kind of fit of the uppers and stuff. I feel like you have to work at that. But underfoot, I feel like the stability has improved. I feel like they've got a better base to run. I enjoyed running them. Having run very recently in the Alpha Fly 2, there's noticeably less kind of spring immediately apparent in the Adios Pro 3. They're not as punchy for sure. I would certainly kind of put them in the same kind of market as a Asics Metaspeed Sky Plus, that kind of feel. But I think there's some good bonuses to that. One is that actually when you get to sort of rock back on your heels, there's a bit more of a platform for that and a bit more protection. And overall, from those first miles, I have to say I quite enjoyed running in them without really being massively wowed by them. Now, the one big problem that I had that sort of coloured all of that was by the end of that 10K, which I ran for about 55 minutes, was that these areas on the left foot were rubbing really quite badly. And I was very glad when that run kind of came to a stop, when I could finish. So this bit here, I'm not really sure what part of the foot that's called, but the knuckle, basically that big knuckle at the back of your big toe, that was digging in right here and actually was cutting quite badly. Only on the left foot though, so I don't really know what was going on. It wasn't happening on the right foot. I tried adjusting the laces, tried loosening, tried all of that to make it work, and it hasn't worked. Subsequently, when I went back out to do some faster intervals in these shoes, I couldn't do them because it was too painful and it was going to cut a hole in my foot. So for another test that I quite like to do in these shoes, I've got the Adios Pro 2, one on my left foot, I've got the Adios Pro 3 on my right foot. I can actually run in these because it was only the left foot in the Adios Pro 3 that was rubbing. I'm going to do a mile, and that will just give us a good sense of how these two shoes compare as well. So I'm going to go and do a mile and I'll report in after. So there's a few things that are immediately obvious running in these. One is that kind of heel cutaway that was on the Adios Pro 2 and it's not so prominent on the Adios Pro 3. It's better, it's much improved on the Pro 3. You've got a far more stable kind of base to run off. That base also, I think, feels much firmer across the whole foot down on the Adios Pro 2 that I've got on my left foot here. On the left foot I can feel there's still quite a lot of sink into that kind of midsole foam. And there is good response and good spring, but the overall feel on the foot, right across the foot on the 3, is a far firmer platform. It's not hard, it's still kind of squishy and you're still getting kind of super foam response, but it's definitely more across the foot, much firmer. And that basically means that the stability, I think, is much improved on the Adios Pro 3. And I think that kind of wide base is also supported by the fact that, you know, on both of these shoes, there's a narrowing in and around the midfoot and the kind of arch of the foot. And that is far less pronounced now on the Adios Pro 3. And again, that just makes for a kind of far broader, more stable base to run off, which I think is, for me personally, I think is a big improvement. So that's a mile done with the Adios Pro 2 on the left foot, the Adios Pro 3 on the right foot, just to see what the difference would be, how those feel. It's a really good way to compare the shoes. And there's a huge difference here. You can tell that Adidas has really worked hard to improve the base that you're running off, the stability, and I think it's worked. There is more stability in this shoe for sure. I mean, the wobble on the 2 compared to the 3 is actually very pronounced when you're running with them side by side. Now, is the 3, based on that, an improvement on the 2? I'd say yes, actually. I much prefer it. I much prefer that stable base to run off. I think maybe they feel a little bit more deadened, but I'm not sure if that's because you're a little bit less aware of the direction that the spring is going in, because it's tending to send you straight forward rather than, you know, on the 2 maybe you can feel that it's sort of, there's a bit of a wobble in the toe off. But yeah, I think actually side by side, I think for me it's going to be the 3 all day long over the 2.
So early verdict on the Pro 3 is that it didn't exactly wow me today, it's fair to say, but I think that was actually quite similar with the Adios Pro 2. I don't remember having a fantastic early impression of that shoe, but I did end up really liking it. So I'm going to reserve judgment for a bit, but yeah, like I said, it didn't feel superbly quick and nimble during the park run, the all-out park run today. And then I was actually hoping for more from it on those stints at kind of slower paces. Even the very first 5k running around 3:30, 3k average, I'd hope for that to feel very cruisy and comfortable in a carbon plate show like this, but yeah, it didn't. It felt a bit hard, and I think that is mostly obviously down to myself today. I'm not quite on it. I'm a little bit, I think, carrying some stuff from last week in terms of maybe a little bit of illness and that kind of thing. But at the same time, the shoe didn't feel great underfoot. It didn't feel like it was really helping me kind of tick along at those slower paces, or, you know, really smash out that speedier pace, and certainly I would have, like I say, rather had the Takumi on for the park run. So anyway, loads more testing to come. We'll get more comparisons of shoes down the line, but it almost feels a little bit in betweeny for me at the moment, in that, you know, it's built like an Alpha Fly in terms of weight and size and girth and all that, but doesn't find that kind of fantastic bounce and efficiency of the Alpha Fly, and then it doesn't have the kind of either the tippy forward, really aggressive feel of something like the Vaporfly or Takumi Sen. So kind of falls a little bit in between them at the moment for me after that first run. Obviously it is just one run, and you know, it didn't go perfectly today for me in general, so that will affect my perception of the shoes. I'll go and have some good runs in the shoes, I'm sure, before the full review, and then we'll deliver a final verdict on it down the line.
So my verdict then, well, aside from the rubbing issue that I had, maybe not everyone will have that issue, but I certainly didn't. It stopped me running these shoes. But beyond that, I thought these were a really, really good, solid set of carbon plated shoes. I enjoyed running in them. I've enjoyed the Pro 2. I actually think, for my money, that the Pro 3 have made kind of a small steps on. I think they're an improved shoe. I much prefer that kind of slightly wider base. I much prefer the fact that I think they feel a little bit firmer underfoot. I think I like the lower drop as well. I think that kind of speaks to the way that I run. I think it just makes the whole kind of platform that you're running off with the Pro 3 feel a little bit more stable. I think it feels a little bit more connected. And I think, you know, when you're trying to get that kind of sort of nice sort of tripod landing, I think you can get that more off of this Adios Pro 3 shoe. Does it feel a little bit dulled? I don't know. I mean, I want to take this for longer miles, but in those initial runs, there's a small part of me that feels like maybe the Pro 2 are a little bit poppier than the Pro 3, and that they may have lost a little bit of the punch. But I think it's going to be talking about margins here. But the big difference here for me is that there's less wobble and there's more control in this shoe. And I think that basically makes it a shoe that I would be able to do a bigger, wider variety of miles, whether that's kind of all out racing or actually even taking this shoe out a little bit more in training. So are they better than the Adios Pro 2? Well, for me, I think on that early test, I would say that they are. I want to do more testing, but I think I much preferred the ride of the Pro 3 so far. So my only real big question, really, and the thing that sort of irks me a little bit, is why has the price gone up £40? I don't know whether Adi sort of felt like it had put its shoe out a little bit cheap last time, realised that everyone else is kind of edging the market up, and thought, well, actually, we've got a bit of headroom to bump ours up and make it at the same price and still be competitive. But it does sort of change the way that you kind of frame this shoe, because the Pro 2 sat somewhere really nicely where you could go, well, actually, if you want a carbon shoe with a really good wallet-friendly price tag, with a decent ride, a decent amount of pop and punch, then it's a great option. Now that the Pro 3 is up against kind of other competition at that price level, Asics Metaspeed Sky 3, you know, the Vaporflies, all of those, makes it a bit more sort of harsh in terms of the judgment that you're going to make on it. And yeah, we'll save that for the full review, but yeah, I think that's going to be an interesting one. It's now batting with potentially much stiffer competition when you're thinking about value for money. So there you have it. That's been our first run test of the Adidas Adizero Adios Pro 3. We're doing the review now, so as ever, if you have any questions that you want us to answer in that review, or any questions you've got right now, hit us up in the comments below. If you've run in them already and you've got some thoughts on what they're like, share them. I'm sure all of the other viewers would be keen to hear other people's thoughts. Don't forget to like and subscribe and ring the bell so you get to know when our full review comes out. Check out all the other carbon shoe content we've got on the channel. Loads of stuff around the Alpha Fly and the Metaspeed Sky rolling in. I mean, it's carbon shoe season, so there is a lot of videos. Make sure you don't miss them. Yeah, as ever, thank you very much for watching. It's been a pleasure to talk to you about the shoes, and we hope to see you again soon on the Run Testers.